And welcome to Nkumat Online Academy. Today we want to look at the kingdom protista. In our last lesson in classification of living things, we talked about the kingdom Monera, and we grouped the kingdom Monera into virus and bacteria, and we also showed the differences between the two groups, the bacteria and the virus. The virus, we said it is prokaryotic, unicellular, and non-free living, which means that they cannot survive outside another living thing. And bacteria, they are prokaryotic, unicellular, but free living, which means that whether they are inside another living thing or they are outside, they can survive. Then we also mentioned other features and gave examples of each. Now today we want to look at the kingdom protista. The kingdom protista. The kingdom protista is a very important kingdom. This is considered the bridge between plants and animal. That is, it forms the intermediate or the precursor of plants and animal. That is the kingdom protista. The kingdom protista are characterized by being eukaryotic. They are the first eukaryotic organisms. They are eukaryotic. They are unicellular. And they are also free living. Protista are eukaryotic, unicellular, and free living. In our last lesson, we said that the Monera, they are prokaryotic. So the protista, they are the first eukaryotic organisms. And we've talked about the meaning of eukaryotic and prokaryotic. We say that prokaryotes, they don't have a membrane-bound nucleus. That means that their nuclear material are not enclosed by anything. The nuclear material, the DNA, they are scattered all over the body or inside the cell. While in eukaryotic organism or the eukaryotes, the hereditary material, the DNA or the nuclear material are enclosed or specially packaged in a vessel we call organelles. So they also have other organelles like mitochondria and others. So that is the difference between the eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms. So you can see the difference between the protista and the Monera. The major difference being that the protista, they are eukaryotic. And I say that they form the bridge between plant and animal. Now because of that, protista, they are actually grouped into two major groups. We have animal-like protista and plant-like protista. That is protista or protists that look like animal and protists that look like plants. The protists that look like animal, they are called protozoa. And the protists that look like plants, they are called algae. So when you hear protozoa and algae, you should know the difference. Both of them belong to the same kingdom, protista. Now the difference being that the protozoa, they look like animal, while the algae, they look like plants. Now under the protozoa, we have organisms like euglena. You have organisms like amoeba. We have organisms like paramecium. Most of these organisms, or some of them, have chloroplasts, which means that they can manufacture their own food. Indeed, some protista have chloroplasts for manufacturing their own food, although others are heterotrophic, which means that they need already made food to survive. Like euglena here, it has a chloroplast. Euglena looks like this. It has its nucleus bound by nuclear membrane. Then it has food vacuole and other organelles inside it. Now this is called flagella. Flagella. Most protozoa, or most animal-like protists, they have appendages, or a form for movement, something they use for movement. Some of them have flagella, some of them have cilia, and some of them have pseudopodia. So the form for movement, or the structure for movement in animal-like protists are: 1. Flagella, 2. Cilia, and 3. Pseudopodia. Now these actually give the 3 major examples of the animal-like protists. The flagella is found in euglena, cilia is found in paramecium, while pseudopodia is found in amoeba. So this represents the differences between the 3 examples of the animal-like protists, the most common animal-like protists. These 3, the paramecium, the euglena, and amoeba, are the most common animal-like protists, or the protozoa. Now the plant-like protists, let me give you a structure of paramecium and amoeba. The paramecium looks like a slippers. It looks like this, like a slippers, and then it has the cilia, this small thing around it is what we call cilia. So they have their food vacuole inside, then they have their nucleus, and then other organelles. Nucleus, it is enclosed, and then food vacuole. So this one is the cilia. Then other structures inside. Your assignment is going to be to draw full structure of these animals this animal-like protists, the paramecium, the euglena, and amoeba. Now the amoeba does not have any definite shape. So anyhow you draw an amoeba, you are correct. So it has a food vacuole and it has a nucleus and then other structures inside. Now these bulging are what it uses for movement, and it is called pseudopodia. That is force feet. Force feet. Pseudopodia means force feet. Pseudo means force, and podia means feet. So pseudopodia means force feet. Amoeba, they have force feet. So this is how amoeba looks like, a sketch of it, a sketch of paramecium, and then sketch of euglena here. Now let's look at the plant-like protists. The plant-like protists, they are called the algae. And they include Spirogyra, and Volvox. Spirogyra looks something like this. It has chloroplasts for manufacturing its own food. So it contains chlorophyll, and that is why Spirogyra looks green, because it manufactures its own food using chlorophyll. Then it is stationary, it doesn't have any structure for movement, and that is one of the reasons we consider it a plant-like organism. Then one interesting thing is that some of these protists, the ones that are considered animal-like protists, some of them have plant-like features, like the euglena. Euglena has chloroplasts and it is actually green, so euglena can make its own food, but it has flagella for movement. So imagine an organism that can move and can also manufacture its own food like plants. So that's why you say that the protists, they are a bridge between plants and animal, because in protists or in protista we find animals that contain both animal and plant-like feature. Then in the plant-like protists, like the Spirogyra, like the Volvox has a structure that helps it to move, but it is considered a plant-like organism. In Volvox we have something like this. So this actually helps it to move around or to get its own food. We know that normally plants manufacture their own food, but Volvox has some structure that help it to take in food as heterotrophic organism. So there is a striking difference within this organism from the normal plants. Some of them make their own food, some of them are autotrophic, and some of them are heterotrophic. So this is it about the algae. Another assignment is for you to draw the full structure of Spirogyra and Volvox. The Volvox, again, one thing again about it is that they are single cell, but they come together, many of them come together to live in colony. Colony means a group. Many of them just come together then and form this thing that looks like a ball. So this ball is not actually one organism. It is always different volvox coming together to form this ball or the colony. So I've said that the major thing or characteristics of protista is that they are eukaryotic, which means that they have membrane-bound nucleus. Then they are unicellular, which means that most of them are, or almost all of them are single-celled. They have just one cell in them. The paramecium, the euglena, the amoeba, the volvox, the spirogyra, they are all single cell. Even the volvox that are different cells. Inside a volvox colony, you will see many volvox. Each of them is just one single cell. Then they will come together to form a colony, which we call the volvox colony. Now, you don't consider all the cells together, you consider them separately because each of them live a separate life. They obtain food separately, they live a separate life. And they are all free living. So we say that protista, they are eukaryotic, unicellular, and free living.